When life looks okay, but feels off, this is where we talk about it all. Hi, friends, and welcome to This Shit Can't Be It, where we have real, unfiltered conversations about rising through all the hard things, reclaiming your personal power. So, whether you're here to feel seen, to be heard, to be inspired, to find the tools to heal, grow, evolve in your own journey, you're in the right place. I'm your host, Anne, and today we're diving into refining success from playing it safe to building a purpose driven impact. And today, my guest is Christy. And after breaking free from the beliefs that she had to play it safe, she transformed her federal layoff into a turning point where she co authored a #1 Amazon bestseller, hosted her company's very first largest summit ever, and now she's here to talk about it all and her entire journey. Welcome, Christy. Thank you so much for joining me.
And I was trying to have some self control because I love the title of your podcast. This shit can't be it. I want to tell you, we can jump right into the shit because it started long before all of the stuff that happened.
That's awesome. Well, let's dive into the shit. What was the shit before your breakthrough?
So we were kind of talking it before, and I launched my company in 2016. It was under the name Healthcare Consulting, and then in 2022, I came back and worked under the banner of Work Solutions. So that's where people see us now. But listen, I launched this in 2016, but I had a whole career going for myself. Now, I'll always say, some people, like, you have to be the most boring person in the world when you go, man, I love writing resumes. Like, nobody just jumps out of the, woodwork and say that, right? But I do because I love helping people to, I think it's a confidence booster sometimes when you can sit down and talk to people as a coach and get them to really see themselves on paper, right? And sometimes people don't, when they see themselves on paper and they see that they are their personal brand, it really helps. So in 2016, after many attempts, I launched Heckle Consulting, and we were doing great. Now, the part that to fill in that part of the story is that I actually had a whole career. I was really thriving in my career. I was a college professor. I had served as a department chair and dean. And man, I really was on that trajectory of like, this is what it's going to be. I'm going to be one of those hippie professors that writes the books that nobody reads, that is passionate about those random campaigns. And I'm going to run my career coaching practice, and it's going to be so great. It's going to be, this is what the career was looking like, right? Now, I definitely had some share of ups and downs, and this is the no, it wasn't the first, but I would say one of the main turning points for me was, in 2019, I was going after this deanship, and I was in an interim role, and man, it was just all kinds of politics and stuff that was associated with that. It was, it was not a good situation, but I had an awesome team, man, and so here's all these years, that I had put into, I'm going to be this, and I got this trajectory to be a college president, all of these things that I was doing. And so when it didn't turn out that way, and this is compounded on top of the fact, so I have to even go back even further because I have struggled with, I'm just keeping it all the way real, right?
Keeping it real
raw here. I have struggled with, so in 2014, I had a miscarriage. 2013, 2014, I had a miscarriage because I struggled with fibroids and fertility, right? And I watched what I thought was going to be my dream burn down, getting married, having kids. It seemed like I watched it burn down in like a day. Like it just happened all so fast, right? So I was 30 years old. I remember sitting there with my fiance. We were at a like a steakhouse, like Texas Longhorn, and I was like looking at the ring, and I was pregnant. I was like, man, it worked out, right? I'm getting my doctorate and all of this stuff. And then I watched it like burn to the ground. Like, honestly, lose the kids, whatever. The relationship didn't work, but I thank God that relationship didn't work. You know what I mean? Would have married the wrong person. But I went into this depression. And I didn't even, and I just kept, I really became focused on my career and said, okay, well, that didn't work out. And me, I kind of like bounce back, but really I wasn't really dealing with the issue. But what people saw as resiliency was really just me like using work as an excuse to just like not deal with my feelings, right?
Been
Or my
there.
emotions. Yeah.
Yeah, done
And
that.
I'm telling you, man, I did this all the way up from 30 to 37. And everything I had was riding on, I'm going to be on this trajectory to be a dean, or this job has to work out, right? Because that's what I was building up for. So then when it didn't work out, and then I realized like I'm working in this super toxic environment. Great people. I had great people who worked on my team for me, but the
Right.
politics of the organization itself, absolute toxic, hot mess. And what ended up happening was I don't know. When the job didn't come through, I said, I'm done with all of this. I sold my house. I left and I went and I moved back home. And so here I was at 37, and I, I'm Dr. Taylor, poised and polished. And at 37, I found myself sleeping in my old bedroom that I grew up in, on my mama's couch, on the couch of a therapist, and I couldn't quit crying. And it was the therapist that said, Christy, you use work to try to account. You used it as kind of like I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I
Yeah.
use work as a replace. I focused on
Yep.
work instead of focusing on. She was like, and in the midst of that,
Avoidance.
most
Yeah.
likely you had a nervous breakdown, right? And you
Yep.
just kept working through that nervous breakdown. So when this last thing you wanted didn't work out, then you just found yourself here, and you have to
Wow.
face the reality of it. So
Yeah.
that was a chain of events. That was in 2020. That wasn't even what we're dealing with now, right?
No. And I tip my hat to you because God love you for recognizing it sooner than later. Because as you're talking, I've like got goosebumps because I'm like, holy shit. I was through the same thing. So my mom passed away when I was 23. She was 57. So still young for her. My dad was a widow at the age of 50. And literally, I became a workaholic to avoid it all.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't last like 3 to 4 years for me. It lasted 30 years. So I
Well,
tip my
mine was a
hat
good
to you
7.
for for coming out of that so much faster.
And
Oh,
this is
you're
why I said we have to be careful about what we teach people about resiliency. Because when people saw me, right, they was like, well, Dr. Taylor is doing all of this. And even the people who knew me personally and what I had been through, because not everybody knew that I had been through that sense of loss. I come from down south, and I don't know, in where you from, but where I grew up, it's like women, we're supposed to graduate. I knew women who, before we even got out of high school, they were already engaged. I was supposed to get married, and I was supposed to have children. And I was supposed to get my little teaching job, and then that was what I was supposed to do. And when it didn't work out that way, and then I thought, okay, well, I lived life, so it was going to happen at 30, right? So because I was already late to the game, according to some, you know. And then when it
yeah.
didn't work out at 30, I'm like, oh my goodness, it's over, And so I just, like you said, became that workaholic, and I just used work to just as a substitute for everything. And and I had so much riding on. I have to be this, or I have to build this type of career. So then when it burnt down, but I will tell you what, I went to probably about 5 therapy sessions, because once she said, Christy, you most likely had a nervous breakdown because of all the stuff that happened to you, and you were working right through it. But you were working through it, but not working on. Not working on me. I was just working through it. Right. Let me just keep myself busy with another thing. Oh, listen, I'm still running my business, and I even think at that point, me starting a business was part of that. Me being in the business. And at some point I took a couple of years break from that business after that, because I was like, I gotta stop, right? And what I realized by that like fourth to fifth therapy session, I said, man, I will never allow this to happen to myself again. Like, be in such a mode where people think that what
Mm,
I'm doing is brilliant, but
yep.
really I'm suffering on the inside. So it didn't take
Yeah.
long. That's like once she pointed out to me, I was like, my God, what did I allow to happen to myself?
Yeah.
So then I went through the process of like, I'm gonna start over. So I moved to DC, and I'm like, boom, I'm starting over. And it's been a good few years, right? I launched Work Solutions this time in 2022. I relaunched under that brand. Same thing, doing the same thing, but this time we had a broader impact, right? Not just writing resumes, but actually being a prescription for career success. Because what I did not want was people to get caught up in that cycle like I did, right? I want to actually to
Yes.
be the solution of the
Yes.
supporting people in their career. Of like, you do not have to literally work yourself to death. You deserve to be happy and healthy. So it did come out of something, right? I birthed that out of something, wanting to support people. But then here we go, January of this year, and it's like, okay, I'm back. I found the sweet spot. I got this going, and we're doing all of this awesome stuff. And I will tell you, and I planned the year of beauty pageants and traveling. That's what this year was supposed to be, because I did my first beauty pageant last year when I was 41, and I said, I'm like this. Let me do it because it helps to make me better. Honestly, and it was supposed to be a carefree year of traveling, doing beauty pageants, and just being better and stronger at what I do. But in January, of course, I was a contractor, laid off from my role. I worked for, I won't say the agency, but I worked for an agency where most of us, it was a small group, but most of us were contractors that worked for that agency, but that was a career place. You would go there and you could spend a career there. And it was just like it happened overnight. And here I am, a career coach, like, write your resumes. And now I don't have a job, right? And then I'm trying to support all of these people who had spent their life doing this work and are finding themselves in transition.
Uh, yeah. And there's nothing like being in it because you start to coach it differently. And I love what you said, your prescription, because I noticed when you signed up to be on this podcast, you had put in the description RX Solutions. And I thought, RX Solutions. And then when you said prescription, I was like, yes. Like I got
Yeah.
goosebumps when you said the prescription solution, because you're right. People don't just need skill sets. They need personal development to go with it. And I've been saying this all along. Like I've been in account management, sales, whatever you want to call it, but always been in the industry where I'm managing accounts and in a role of account management and sales, that they gave me all the skill training in the world. But at the end of the day, skills can only take you so far. It's in here that's going to that's going to utilize those skills to catapult you to endless and unlimited potential. The skills don't give you that unlimited potential. The skills are unlimited. They're just skills, but it's what you do with them. And as a person, your belief system and your being is what stops and blocks you. So I love how you said that RX solution, because you're right. People need to follow a path and understanding. And
Yeah.
the fact that you spoke to 5 different therapists, again, I tip my hat
No, sir.
because
It was one therapist, just five
oh,
sessions.
5 sessions. Yeah, but still in itself, that says a lot, because like I said, I became a workaholic, and you're right, society loves that, especially in women, because they can pay us less and get more out of us. And literally it's an acceptable sociable addiction. And I call it an addiction. I always have, because it's
Yes.
not healthy. And you do become addicted to the pattern of what it does for you. Like I often heard Dr. Joe and even Dr. Phil will say this, that there's a payoff for our behaviors. Whether it's good or bad, there's a payoff. Even if it's bad, there's a payoff. No different than the kid throwing a tantrum. There's a payoff. He's getting attention.
There's this
So,
business coach. He always says work is working on you, right? It's either working for you
yeah,
or against you, but that's the same
yeah,
thing. Yeah.
100%. And it being sociably acceptable, it became an addiction for me, because it allowed me to avoid everything in life. And then I realized for
Mm.
me, I was on this hamster wheel going nowhere. Like my career was only going to go so far on this hamster wheel
Yeah.
of life. And I
Isn't
was
it
like,
crazy?
life is too short. And I'm sitting back thinking, like, I lost two brothers when I was younger. I lost my mother at the age of 23. And I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, we only got this one life. It's not a dress rehearsal. Like, what the fuck? And it was
We're using
like
work as a
slapped
coping
up.
mechanism.
Yeah.
Now the I will say this. My doctorate is in health science. So I'm gonna tell you why I chose work solutions. Obviously, because when I had Hecka Healthcare, that was meant health. That was Hecka focused on that little snake thing that's on the medicine thing. The
Yeah.
doctor's word. That's a whole historic thing, but that means Hecka Health. That's where it came from. And when I first relaunched Work Solutions, I was like, well, I'm gonna do the same thing and I'm going to just focus on helping people that work in the healthcare industry. And then I started thinking about, hey, you've been an educator, you've been a teacher, you've worked in nonprofit. All of y'all deal with the same thing, which is usually short resources, right?
Yeah.
Stress. And so how do I take that? And I will tell you this. It was during that, which seemed like the period of time when everything was burning down. And one point, it goes back to another story where I had to get a doctorate degree now, and I hit some hard times, and this is why I tell people. And I had to go get a part-time job working at CVS as a pharmacy tech. But I didn't know it then. But it was that pharmacy tech license that I got from working that little short time at CVS that turned into my prescription for career success, because some people would have been like, "Oh no, I'm not gonna get a second job in it." But this was like almost 10 years ago, right? It allowed me to be able to move up here to DC and run an entire program as a project manager, working under a contract because I had that background. I also had the doctorate in health science. And so when I started to look at how we were going to change Work Solutions, I said, you know what we're going to do? We're going to be the prescription for career success for everybody and not just healthcare. And so that's what that RX in our name, because people always want to say work RX. No, it's just pronounced work, right? But we have really pushed that banner for prescription for success. And to your point, so here I am, lost the job in January. All of this stuff, except for that book, all of this stuff, the conference and all of that, I had planned that in like October of 2024. So like we had already had this stuff planned, right? And I had this whole big thing, but who knew that? I mean, usually if something like that happens in your life, you're like everything has to be canceled. I have to I have to find my way before I can help somebody else. But I had already had this stuff planned, and then so after that, it was like, you know what? Since we're already in hot shit, let's just write a book too.
Yep.
Right? You know
Go
what I mean?
all
It's
in.
like we're already here. We might as well just write a book and have everybody contribute to the book. And man, we pushed that book. And like you said, I would have known that out of that situation. It's like, and at this point in time, I'm still not talking about the fact that I got laid off. Now, the people who were part of that conference, they knew because I had I got laid off, and then it was like the next week I had the lunch meeting for the conference. All of these people had came on board, right? And then it was just like, oh, I think it was a month into it was like the end of February. I was like, hey, we're gonna write a book too. Why not? You know what I mean? And everybody contributed a chapter because I was like, this is a
Yep.
greater time than ever for people to be sharing their experiences as leaders and people in these spaces as coaches of like how do you build cultivate this mindset where you keep it positive and keep it going. Now, don't get this fool. Don't be fooled because while I was pushing all of this outwardly and people, I had my days where I was like, oh my god, what is it can't burn
Yes.
down again any worse than what it's doing, right? Because I'm trying to keep this going because this is what I had planned. And then behind the scenes, luckily I landed a job really quickly. It wasn't a great environment, but it kept me going. And then I was able to move into another until I can get into another space, right? So it wasn't until and so we had pushed the book. We did the conference. We opened that conference up for everybody to just be able to come to free because I had plans to charge and all of that stuff. But it was just like these people needed that information, right? People needed that book. And it wasn't until May I was doing a speaking engagement. It was a workshop that I was doing, and I walked in there with my prepared remarks about how talking about career transitions and stuff. Because at this point, I still had not talked about me. And then when I walked into there and I saw all of these people that I'm talking people who have been in their careers 20 years, 30 years, trying to figure out people who had just got. And I'm like, my gosh,
Yeah.
I understand your situation because I have been there, right? I've been
Yeah.
there and done that. And And that broke down so many barriers and walls. Because once I
Yeah.
shared my story, like, hey, I've been there, done it. There's nothing that I'm teaching you today that I didn't use to get myself to pick up the pieces myself and get a new role, and or focusing on mindset, because now I'm at a point where I'm like really dealing with my issues versus how I was back in 2020 or before 2020, right? When I had to end up on that therapist couch and was like, well, what happened? Right. But now I'm like, okay, you gotta deal with it and face it. But you still gotta keep moving forward. And because this is not just like a era of regular job searches for people. This is an era where people also have to deal with themselves, because a lot of what they thought was going to be their career is now over. So how do you start? How do you restart? How do you transition? Right?
100%. And some people realize that what they were doing, they didn't love. So, how do they shift gears to start enjoying their life, the latter part, whether it be working for someone else or jumping into your own thing? Like that was my thing, is transitioning from that working mindset, because my parents had a grade 8 education and I got taught, grow up, get a good education, get a good
Yep.
job so you can have it better than us. And what I realized is that I didn't have it better than them. I had more money, but it was still the same shit going on in my life. They still had the same challenges they had, just at a different capacity. Still had the same struggles they had, just at a different capacity. So it's like, yeah, I had a better life financially, but I didn't love what I was doing. I was stressed to the nines. I was still dealing with the same mental bullshit that they dealt with, because they raised me, they embedded it in me. So the only way I could break the cycle was to figure out how to break the cycle, because other than that, it just keeps perpetuating. So that's when I realized, and it took me, like, say, 30 plus years. So I would have been, well, I shouldn't say 30 plus years. Um, took me 30 plus years to get here, but I was probably in my mid 40s when I started to deep dive into personal development. And I didn't know what I didn't know. So I started off trying to, pull stuff from YouTube, books,
Mm-hmm.
podcasts, all the free stuff, which is great, but all the free stuff can only take you so far. It gives you the understanding that you're not alone where you're at, but it doesn't give you the how. And that's when I realized that everybody's marketing is giving you valuable information, but nobody's teaching you how, because that's part of their business. You got to pay
Yeah.
for the how. And and so I started paying for groups. I started paying for coaches. I started paying for, and my life went from the hamster wheel for 25 plus years to changing. Even while I was still working, I could feel the change. I'd still get stuck sometimes in that hamster wheel at work, but my learning and applying started to help me transition to be different and show up different. So for me, I was that wingnut that actually asked to get laid off. And then I walked out of my manager's office saying, "What the fuck did you just do?" Like,
Hey.
it was a free flow conversation, and they say the universe, when you put shit out there, the universe provides. Well, my manager's like, "No, no, no, that's not going to happen. No, no, no." And I was like, "But my plan was to dive into coaching and wean myself out, like part-time, then become full-time in my own business," was my plan. And after I did that, I was like, "Oh my God, what did I just do?" Because we went through probably 3 years of massive, massive growth, and it's pipeline industry. So with the political bullshit between both borders, because I'm in Canada, the big wigs in the oil industry weren't bidding on new projects, and some of that can take years before they even break ground to lay new pipeline, do anything. So it went from $40 million in sales to barely anything. So we went from being like super busy to it diving off. Now we knew business was going to drop off. We had no idea it was going to drop off that much. So, we're sitting there doing this, and I'm doing my own personal development because the training that work provided was shit. So I thought, I paid for this training, so I'm going to take it because it's only going to better them. So in between, helping other people, helping other departments, I said to them, like, help us transition, but keep us in the same roles, but let us help other people. Like, we've got tons of experience. We were the highest paid people in the company for doing what we did, but they didn't really transition us. So I was bored out of my tree. So when I said that, my manager's like, no, that's not going to happen. And then 2 months later, it was 2 days before my 50th birthday, they let me go. And unlike most people, like you say, most people would be devastated because if they're not prepared to leave, then their whole world crumbles in their mind when they get
Mm-hmm.
that news. And literally sat in that room. I think they were expecting me to explode because that would have been my normal
Yeah.
reaction. I always joke about having the explosive personality because I just, whatever I feel, it comes out. So if I get angry, it comes out. And yeah, I sat there and they gave us the news and I got scared for like 30 seconds, maybe 90 seconds. And then I was like, wait a minute, I asked for this shit. Like, this is my chance to now rise. And
Right. To
I,
go out and do what you want to do.
yeah. And I remember I called my husband. He thought I was pranking him because I'd never been laid off in my life. He thought it was a prank. And I'm like, no, like I'm packing my shit up. I'll see you in an hour. And he
Sometimes
was
that is a
freaking
crazy
out.
story.
Yeah, and he was freaking out. And everybody, like you say, like they look at that as a loss. I looked at it as doors opening. So everybody around me at work, like people were shocked that they let me go. So everybody is mortified and in this low vibration of, grief. And I'm like, no, this is awesome. And they're all looking at me like I'm freaking crazy. But I had to come back and bring some stuff because I had like work laptop and stuff at home and I had stuff here so I could work both places. So I had to return all that stuff. So when I went in the next day, I was there for probably an hour and a half, consoling everybody, telling them this is the best thing that could have ever happened. And I walked out of there and I had the greatest feeling because I was like, you know what? This is like the end of November, heading into December. The compensation packet they gave me took me into February, and I was like, this is perfect. I get to enjoy December. I'm home. I get to reset, enjoy Christmas, and start the new year off right. Well, I didn't know what I didn't know. So that next year was nothing but a learning curve. Like, I don't think I made hardly any money in my coaching business because all I did was learn, learn, learn. I was buying
Mm-hmm.
programs, I was diving into learning. And honestly, I was even avoiding taking on clients that first year because I was still dealing with me. Although I was excited to start, I was scared to start because now I'm impacting somebody else versus just doing it for someone else, being paid to train and being paid to help clients in account management. Like it was a different type of coaching versus training. It was coaching versus training. So I was doubting my own self and my own skills and my own abilities, even though while I was working, I had taken tons of programming to get me there.
Yeah.
It's different when you got to apply it. So I dove into more training to avoid having to take on clients. So
Do
it
that
wasn't,
though. We you probably like need a forever student. Like always, let me take a class because
oh,
I'm
I'm
always
addicted to
learning.
learning.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
it's I will say whatever you this version of my business when I was writing resumes, easy to be like I'm making a profit because I mean I always have had a full-time job. At this point, it's never the business has never been about this is gonna be my full-time thing, right? I can tell you the struggles of a business, just like you, right? When I
Yeah.
said I only have been doing this version of my business that you see, I went on a military deployment and I came back in 2023, and I was looking for speaking opportunities, and this I always give her credit because she has passed away now. She used to go by the name
Uh-huh.
Denise Scholarships because she had her own platform. She was a TED Talk. She invited me to be part of her event, and I said, okay, but part of the thing was is that you had to promote it, right? I didn't know anything about this. This was in November 2023. I didn't know anything about this. So I said, oh, well, I'm going to just interview some people on like Zoom or something and help promote this event. She was like, since it's my event, I can come in and do this for you, you know. So she comes in and we do this little promotion. But then here's the thing: Denise has never met me in her life. She didn't know me. You know, we met through one of these speaker, like I need a speaker type of platforms. The lady spent a good 45 minutes after that event, after that interview, and she mentored me. She
Oh
was like,
wow.
"These are the type of cameras that you need. You can start a podcast. This, and this." And I would say that was in what November. Everything that you see that we've done for the business, including that summit, has the growth has only been in the last year and a half as a result of that one conversation.
Yeah.
That somebody had. So I get it, man. And I'm telling you, there have been some days I've looked at my bank account after trying to suddenly expand my business, and I'm like, well, wow, because that we're in the growth mode, right? And so I completely understand, wanting to invest in a personal development and personal growth for yourself before you go out and say, okay, I'm gonna coach people. I had to keep coaching people because that's what brings in the money, but all of
Right.
it goes back to the business, at least in this stage we're in right now.
Yeah. And there's so many different ways to coach people. Like it's
Yeah.
insane. And they say niche down, but and that was part of my first year off. That was part of my learning because they're saying niche down, like narrow down your client. And it's like it's tough for me to do that because you start to realize how valuable your skills are.
Hmm.
Because when you learn new skills and you learn new strategies, nobody can take that from you. They can lay you off all day long. You still have those to pull from. Nobody can take that shit from you.
And the
And
thing about career coaching is like I was like that too, right? I was like, I'm only gonna do healthcare, but I'm like, it's people that need this
yes,
stuff all across the board.
100%. And I can go down so many different rabbit holes, like right down to helping people set up websites and do funnels and all. Like I can go down all these rabbit holes, but it's like, no, focus. Because when you start going down rabbit holes, people don't know what you do. And then they don't want to connect with you because it's hard to build the trust if you're all over the map. And that's what I experienced my first year because I was all over the map. So it wasn't until I niched down and started to focus on specifically coaching people and their mindset and their health and their well-being of what goes on in here that everything started, like even my own focus changed. Like
Yeah,
it was a huge transition. So and it's not been easy. Like it's a tough battle. And
it
here
is.
in Canada and the US, like there's coaches everywhere. And some of them are certified up the yin yang but can't relate to people. Some of them are really relatable to people with no certification at all, and some of them do a better job than the ones that are highly certified. So it's a mishmash of an industry. So unless you're niche down, you could fall into any rabbit hole. And that's the thing. It's a beautiful journey when you figure out where your passions are
Coaching is.
versus
We
what you
we
can do.
really we really one of the things I said I niched up, but I'm in this social impact space, right?
Yeah.
Most of my folks are gonna be healthcare, nonprofits, education, or even people, from religious communities. But every now and then I'll get somebody that'll trickle in that's just from this space of just like maybe IT or something like that. Because all of the workshops and stuff are open. But you're 100% right. I feel like that we were doing everything and anything in that very beginning when we were trying to find our space in that first year
Yep.
of like we're going to expand, right?
Yep.
Now we say we have a
Yep.
career ecosystem. So,
Yep.
we have that magazine, we have the podcast, we do our work in diversity. We run our events that are open for everybody because we are focused on personal development. Because you can't be a prescription for career success and then just we offer a singular service, which is coaching, right? But
Yep.
and to the point of focusing on mindset, I want to just dwell there a bit because
Yes.
to me, career coaching is different. Because when you come into a career coach, okay, so like you go to a life coach, right? A life coach is
Yes.
like that broad thing. But career coaching, for me, in my experiences, they come to me for a very technical level service, right? And I
Right.
have to have that conversation with them to get to the mind. I used to brand myself as I say career and executive coach because it's more mainstream, but I truly used to brand myself as a career mindset coach because people will come, Dr. Taylor, I can't find a job. I need a resume, or I'm not nailing the interviews. And then we start talking, right? And then you start getting into the depths of sometimes it's not even just they need the tangible resume, right? They need a mindset reset, a mindset
Yeah.
shift, right? So
Yep.
even you as a coach, when you have gone into this space and you're dealing with people and the mindset, how are people approaching? For me, it's like they approach me for a tangible item, right? But then it's like I have to have the conversation because it's like I can do a resume, a LinkedIn, a cover letter, and help you with your career brand. At least that's a space where I specialize in, right? But you're not going to get off the hamster wheel until we address your mindset.
Right. You can write a fabulous resume on paper, but if that person walks through the door and they're not aligned, or their personality is like not there, it's not showing, they're going to blow it. You can have the best thing on paper, but it's you that sells you in that interview. And you need the full package. And I think you're right. That's the piece that a lot of people miss. It's not just the paper, it's how you deliver when somebody gets that paper and calls you up. That's the sales pitch right there.
Right,
And
and I know I
that's,
see people now like, oh man, I applied for 600 jobs. It's like, okay, man, the universe is giving you the energy that you put. If you apply for 1,000 jobs and you can't, I mean, listen, I'm not above anything. I mean, this economy that we live in, I think I got the Instant Work app on my phone. I got like, I got backup contracts with like, I'll run a call center at home if I have to. So I'm not above it, but for us to be in this space and you can absolutely find no work, you apply for thousands of jobs and some of that is mindset. Because you said it
yep.
earlier, about us attracting what we put out there.
Yes.
Man, what energy are you radiating?
Yeah.
What energy are you radiating?
Yeah. Oh, you're asking me what energy I'm
Yeah, no,
radiating?
I'm asking
Oh,
you. What do I know from my coaching experience, just because of the space which I coach, which is career coaching. I'm
yeah.
dealing with this. People are coming to me with the very
Yes.
tangible, like I need a resume,
Right.
and it takes those conversations. So how are people approaching you? I mean, in
Yeah.
the spaces that you coach in.
Yeah. So it's a variety. But for me, my energy, especially when it comes to career coaching, my energy has always been, especially when it comes to jobs, when I walk through that door, it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
So when I sat down, I can't tell you how many interviews I went to. And when I sat down and we started the conversation, I throw the interviewers right off because they have a set number of questions or specific questions they want to ask. So they have a flow in mind. And every time I walk into an interview, I screw up that flow. And I've had people tell me that they've hired me because of the interview and how I presented myself, because I was being naturally me. I'd make jokes, but I really, it's all about reading a room as well. So if you're dealing with somebody in the other side of the room that's very technical, very set in their ways, very direct, and they just want the meeting, they want to hit the meeting and get it over, and you walk in and start joking around, you've lost them. So I've always been able to have that ability to read a little bit, and I've learned to dive into that a little bit more because you have different personality types. And I'm very much a relationship type person, but I can be very direct and very, to the point. But I walk in with the intent that this is done, this is mine. And almost every job interview that I've had, I've not had to have very many of them before I was hired, because I walk in and I start off a conversation, I'll ask a question, and it just throws everything right out of the water of what they had planned. So instead of sitting there and being a robot and succumbing to their questions, I'm being human. I'm being a person that's confident in their own skin and presenting that based on my resume and the job that we're after in ways that most people don't. And it sticks out. And
When
that's
you no, I'm
that's
sorry, go
been my
ahead.
mindset, to stick out.
Yeah, because I always talk about the art of storytelling, and I want to go back to just the point you made on mindset, right? And so, but I'm seeing in most cases, just because of the nature of career coaching, people don't come to us they come to us like what life coaching is, and mindset coaching can be very broad, right? But from a career coach standpoint, it's always like, hey, can you write my resume? And then you have those conversations, and that's what opens up because I don't know if it's a cognitive model called rational emotive behavioral therapy coaching, and it is where I really get people to dive into the deep. It's kind of like the five whys. It's like,
Yeah,
why do you think that way? Why, right? Because people addressing the root cause of what we think, how we think,
our belief systems.
what influenced all of that. Because I'm just showing people that in coaching, no matter what our niche is, right? There's some aspect of mindset associated with it because
Right.
that is holistic coaching, So I'm not
Yes.
just a resume writer. It's like, okay, I
No.
I get to the root cause and have discussions to help people heal.
Right.
Those conversations are required.
Hmm. And that's where my coaching dives into, is the belief systems, because
Mm-hmm.
it's the belief systems and the stories we tell ourselves in here which impact our habits and how we show up.
Is
So it's huge. So when I was younger, I had a very big, I'll just say it, I had a very big don't fuck with me attitude. And there were times when you're young, you don't know what you don't know, right? So I was like a tornado in society. But I'd go to work, but I knew, because I was taught at a very young age, when you go to work for somebody, you do a damn good job so that nobody can say that you didn't do your best. And that's why I was never laid off until 2 days before my 50th birthday, because every job I did, I went way above and beyond and I tackled it like I'm going to be the king of the castle. And what happened is that early on in my career, because I had that strong don't fuck with me attitude, it worked to my advantage when it come to being in a position from a management standpoint of, okay, she's going to get the job done. Nobody's going to mess with her because she's like a, she's on a path, get out of the way. So employers loved it to a certain degree. But at the same time, the people that we had to work with and the team members we had to work with, unless they had a similar personality, they were petrified of me of getting run over. So I had to learn to realize that I had that in my personality and how to soften it and
yeah,
not be the tornado. And I noticed, because I hear it from all the doctors, Dr. Joe Dispenza, you hear them all saying that, and even Tony Robbins, I've done some of his training lately, and even he says it, when we get stressed or if we get feeling low, we resort back to our nature. And I noticed when I was working that job that I got laid off of before my 50th birthday, that during those times of growth when I was stressed, that nature came back automatically. Like that's your autopilot. So unless you really do something to break the habit of that autopilot, it will rear its ugly head, or good head, whatever that habit is. But your default never truly goes away, but it's being able to be hyper aware of it at all times, to be able to catch it and then change it in the moment. So when the high stress kicks in, am I going to react or am I going to take a breath and respond?
great.
Because they're different. And I grew up reacting throughout most of my adult life until I became aware, hyper aware, not just aware, but hyper aware of my behaviors. And does it still come out? Absolutely, from time to time. We're not perfect. We're never going to be perfect. It's a journey. So it's being able to recognize it and shift it as it comes out. So I coach people on that process of being able to understand their belief systems. Is it true? Is it not? Because a lot of our belief systems are
Yeah.
old and they don't really serve us, but we still function based on them. And if it's not true, how to rewire and refill it with a belief system that's true for them and that works for them.
Yeah, and that is, I really take that approach to focusing on the workplace, right? And then it'll branches out to life. But I really try to stress the fact that, like, to your point, a lot of these habits and things that we're dealing with, and I try to take those pieces and say, when you go into these interviews, when you're presenting yourself, or when you're, developing yourself as a leader, right? You're going to show up, so you better deal with you now and know who you are, and don't try to give the persona of perfection, because people are going to meet you, right? We go in the interview, go ahead and let them meet you, and you can wow them right away by telling stories. Now, the interviews themselves are not therapy. So, when we talk about being yourself, we're not saying be over the top, right? But we are talking about being able to tell your story and how you're a fit for this organization, a fit for this role, and what you're going to be able to bring to the table to solve their problems.
Right.
But the techniques are all the same in terms of continuing that next step to make sure that you're addressing the underlying issues that are impacting you. And I think that is why I was able to transition out of therapy. I will go to a therapist quick if I feel like I need some. I don't have a problem, right, with that. So, and it doesn't take me long, because I'm like, once I figure out the root cause of why I'm thinking the way that I'm thinking, then I'm going to proactively work to change it. When I sit in that therapist chair and I said, oh, this is how I got here, being a hot mess, and then just putting some sugar on the hot mess with some whipped cream, and then each year I was adding a cherry and some sprinkles, and then the ice cream melted, and then now I'm truly a mess. Once I acknowledged that, right, it really
Yeah.
helped me to embrace who I was and what my path was going forward. So I've experienced it all. I've been fired. I've been laid off. I've had to resign. So I think that, from a career coaching standpoint, I can no longer say that there is nothing that I have not experienced. That I have something I can relate on every level, and I have truly taken it. And now what we're doing is I'm taking it and putting it in the form of workshops where I am
Nice.
just truly supporting people. Right. I love resume writing. I love you seeing yourself on paper, but now I'm to the point from as a career coach where it's like I'm coaching people on how to do those tangible things themselves, right? And those tactical level things themselves. And so we've transitioned to like resume feedback and LinkedIn coaching sessions where I'm actually teaching people in the workshops. And we are now developing a workshop. We had Pivot Like a Pro, which is our course. And then now we're doing a transition like a pro and interview prep like a pro workshop. And that transition like a
Nice.
pro workshop that we're launching, our core course is Pivot Like a Pro. And that where people are like, well, Dr. Taylor, some of this stuff, I had to really work through it. It's like, yes, but, and that's not a mindset, it's more so career branding, right? But it's when they get into the sessions with me where we get to talk about some of that one-on-one stuff. And that's to me, the true experience of taking it. But we're launching a
Absolutely.
course in October where, and I had to distinguish between these two words, pivot versus transition. And what I've taught people is like, pivot was like, okay, boom, I lost my job, I got to react now, right? But what if you're in a situation like you're in where it's like, okay, I actually knew this was kind of coming, so because I asked for it, right? But now I'm in transition, and I want to teach people about identifying their values, their skills, their the things that if I have to cross over into another industry, now that I have some time to do a strategic job search, what does that process really look like? How do I prepare? We got a whole section on mindset in that workshop because it's just like, how do I prepare my mindset for what I'm about to do? Because I'm done with the sudden pivot because maybe I found a job to get me over or whatever. But now that I understand that, now let me truly take some time to
Yes.
really think about the art of transition like
Right.
you have, and so I can truly find my space. I have looked at some people experiencing even the people, shout out to the people who, because I have been trying to figure out YouTube for years, who like just
I
like,
know, right?
okay, I got laid off, and then boom, they just took their cameras and started filming and saying, okay, I'm gonna tell you my story, and I'm not even gonna look for a job. I'm gonna travel for a year, or I'm gonna record myself while I look for a job and share, and then they blow it up on YouTube. So some people even found their space, that transition, or that quick pivot as a YouTube. I mean, it's just amazing to watch people
Yeah.
truly actually finding things, that creative outlet, when they were so attached to this one thing, but now they made a pivot, and then from that pivot you might actually be able to build out a transition, because some people say, well, you know what, I'm never going
Yes.
back. They do what you did. I'm never going back. I'm coaching, right?
Yeah.
Whereas me, I got another good 20 years, unless something blows up overnight where I suddenly become the most amazing career coach in the world, and it can
Yeah.
happen. But I continue to plan my regular everyday life career, and my
Yes.
business is something that I'm continuing to build and speak, right? But for those people who were like, they had to do that pivot
Yes.
right then, I just commend those folks who are like, I'm just gonna become a content. Now you might be transitioning into
Yeah.
full content creation or coaching.
And a lot of coaches do go back to work because it's an up and down industry. When you're working for yourself, it's up and down. And I've seen a lot of coaches have to go back to work. And it's okay if that happens. Like that, like you say, that pivot, that transition, it's a journey. It's
Yes.
it's normal to have ups and downs. You're not living unless you have ups and downs. And it's funny because I just did a video yesterday that I posted on social media that we it takes time to figure out sometimes what it is that you want to do and how to deliver it. Some people, you're right, they just pivot and boom, the transition happens quick. Like there's a friend of mine in Ontario, Canada. She got on YouTube. She was monetized in 2.5 months. And I'm like, how the hell did you do that? But other people can take 5 years to monetize.
I'm
Like
telling
it's
you.
it's not normal to monetize that fast. But when you find your groove and you know how to deliver it, and you can get that niche down, like you say, on a platform, then things can catapult for you. But that doesn't happen to everybody. It doesn't happen for most people. So a lot of people go on this journey. And I said the ups and downs are normal, but we don't learn when things are easy. We don't like when you hit a reward And say your company has a trip and you win that trip, you're not going to be learning on that trip. You're going to be absorbing, and that's your success. That's your triumph. Absorb it, be in it, relish in it, because that's a time of celebration. We shouldn't be learning when we're celebrating. Like, celebrate, be in the moment. But it's the times of transition, the times of pivot, and the times of the down parts and the shocks of being laid off or let
Yeah.
go, that we got to learn. And we learn when things get tough. We don't learn when things are easy. We learn when things get tough. So are we going to learn, or are we just going to keep repeating the process? And that's the key thing. We have to learn, and we got to figure out who we are, what is it that we want, set boundaries, and deliver them clearly. Because if we don't deliver them clearly, they're always up for negotiation, and more so with ourselves. And that's what causes our chaos. That's what causes our overwhelm. That's what causes our stress. And until we figure that out, what that is for us individually, that chaos, the stress, the overwhelm is just going to be a perpetuating cycle.
That's so true, and I just want to just reemphasize your point that this is an up and down game. I mean, I shared two instances in my life, and I mean, I've been sharing the most recent one so much I forgot about the one that actually got me here in the first place, which was when the shit burnt down, and I found myself like in 20, like, what is going on, right? But then there was a time before that, and here's the thing, we don't always realize like what's happening in the universe when we're going through those things, right? Like I just remember, having that miscarriage in like 20, I forget the year, like 2013, 2014, going through that process, and then thinking that I'm getting it back together. And then in 2017, having to figure out like, what? Had to get a second job. That second job is what turned into, and I just feel like my luck could not get anywhere. I promise you. And I started the job that day and had a flat tire that same night, was the only one at work working on the, I mean, it was just like a hot shit mess, right?
Yeah.
I'm like, God, my luck can't get any worse
Yeah.
than what it is, right? But it was that part-time job, me working as a pharmacy tech, that
It catapulted
said,
you.
okay,
Yeah.
I'm gonna help people write almost 10 years later, write the prescription for career success. It was that one thing that I was doing that turned into me getting a contract
Yeah.
in 2020 to be able to move to DC and say, I'm gonna be a project manager for this initiative that
Yeah.
was paying me a good $35,000 more than what I was making as a professor and dean, right? It was those things that seem like hot
Yeah.
shit moments where it's like,
Part of
okay,
the
there's no
journey.
comeback from it. And it was like, fast forward years from now, those are the things that allow you to pick up the pieces, to be able to continue building or to get to that next
Yeah.
level of growth.
And you
So
can plan all you want, and the universe is always going to throw curveballs at us. At the end of the day, we're going to be tossed curveballs. And I find if we plan too much, the curveballs hit us harder. Like, they hit us even harder.
yes,
And,
ma'am.
life is going to happen. I can't tell you, when I reflect on my own life and when I talk to so many other people about those slapping moments that happen in life. Like, the death of my mother was not planned. My two brothers that passed away when I was younger, we knew it was coming. They were sick. They were genetically ill. But my mother was a little bit of a shock. I was just talking to another gentleman. He fell down a mountain. He almost lost his life. So when shit like that happens, you can't plan for that, but you have to pivot. You have to transition, and you have to realize that life is not a set plan. It's a journey, and it's not gonna be the plan. It's gonna be the up and down as a piece of
Well,
the
they
plan.
say you make your plan, God laughs. Because how many times have I mean, I just knew, the Southern Belle at 30 years old, I was going to be married. I had already kind of ventured off because, at 18, and I know we're coming to an end here, but I just will say, at 18, when I didn't make that sudden decision to go to college and I went and joined the military, and my family was already like, well, what is she got going on? And you know what I'm saying? So I thought, okay, well, 30, I've self-corrected, right? Not that my military career had been great. I was like, okay, I self-corrected. I'm going to have these kids and we're going to have the perfect marriage. And the relationship was a hot mess, but smile and get married and do
Do what you
whatever,
think you're
right?
supposed to.
gonna work out. So then when that burned down, and then the next thing was, okay, just jump to the next thing, right? Like you said, using a career as kind of that, becoming that workaholic and using that as to compensate for what I didn't have. And then at 37, when that burned down, I was like, oh my God, I'm not gonna do this again. I'm not gonna allow myself to be in this situation. So as things continue to burn, things have progressed from there, right? But they have also continued to burn down. But it's just that my mindset is so different now than what it was, in that I'm not in a survivor mode. I look at it and like, man, this happened. This is a hot mess, but how can I use that? And like I said, it still takes me some time. Like I didn't just like openly just come out and go, boom, I lost my job. Like, no. But what I will say is that when it was time for me to share it and be able to connect with people and say like, hey, I've been in this situation too. You know, I'm with you. I'm there with you. Let me just show you some things I did to help support you and get you to that next level. That has really been my saving grace as I've navigated through this year and being able to help so many people. Because now I'm at the point where it's like, ooh, you have workshopped yourself to death, girl. Okay, how many free launch funnels and work? So now we're like, okay, we learned that process. So now let's rein it in, right? And so now we're at the point where even now we're transitioning again. So like, how do I maximize my impact where I'm not spending a minimum, like minimizing the time that I spend, you know, like making these funnels evergreen or something like that. And so that people can still get the help and information that they need, but now I can actually get some good old rest, you know, because it's been a year of
absolutely. And I totally agree with you. Like I'm getting one of my programs online, so it can be evergreen. So it's not so taxing and I don't have to show up 24/7 to make the wheel work. You know, I can show up and support it when I need to be instead of being there all the time. Like you look at one-on-one coaching, you have to show up. You're going to cap out and you're going to burn out because your energy, it takes energy to spend time with people to help them transition and get out of their hot mess so that they can ride higher. So you can only take on so many one-on-ones and you're capping out. So yes, you being able to have evergreen stuff or online programs or courses or webinars, whatever, workshops, whatever you want to call it, having that available is key to being able to free up your time and bring some much needed, I hate the word balance, but literally bring in time for yourself to be able to rest and recharge, but still grow a thriving business where you can still impact people the best way possible. And learning all of that is a transition. It's huge. And AI is coming out and it's going to make things better, but with every laws of the universe, there's polarity in everything. So with every good, there's bad. So we as workers that have good intent can use AI to its advantages and to the benefit to help other people. But there's always going to be those people out there where you've got to protect yourself from scammers and all the things that can be used for bad. So understanding that polarity, but being able to use it for good and help it run your parts of your business and manage parts of your business so that you can have that time freed up is massive. So I can't thank you enough for coming on here today. If anybody wants to connect with Christy, her information is going to be in the description of this video. So jump down there, check her out, connect with her, connect with me, and definitely do not hesitate to reach out if you have questions. Get in touch with her. She knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's doing. And I can't thank you enough for being on here. This has been a blast. We went a little over, but it's all good. Thank you so much.
And thank you, Ann. This has been a great conversation. I really enjoyed it, you know. And people can check me out at worksolutions.com. That's WORXK solutions.com. And I mean, all of our stuff is there.
Yes.
Great conversation of sharing experience.
Yes, thank you so much. And like I say, I'm going to make sure your links are in the description. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining us and tuning in. Remember, breathe deep, and we'll talk to you soon. Take care.